Recording in progress.
Right, I'd like to call the Historic Preservation Commission meeting for July 10th. And let's see, does everyone here?
Juan.
Juan is not here. Okay, so all the commissioners are present except for Juan Rodriguez. Do we need to do a roll count or anything?
We'll go ahead and do a roll call for the record, and then that way we can announce staff present as well.
Okay.
Commissioner Barlow?
Here.
Commissioner Collum?
Here.
Commissioner O'Neill?
Here.
Chair Rath?
Here.
Commissioner Pizell?
Here.
And Commissioner Smith-Carvello?
Here.
We have Vice Chair Rodriguez absent. Staff members present today are Planning Manager Hill, Principal Planner Roveri, Senior Associate Planner Schmidt, and myself, Recording Secretary Argenbright. Information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is on this meeting's agenda, which is online at monterey.gov/agendas. Remote commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you are connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. In the chamber, we recommend keeping phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. Thank you for participating in your city government.
Okay, thank you. So the first order of business is the consent item, which is the minutes. Do we have any corrections on the minutes?
No.
Turn it on. All right, so a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move that we approve the minutes as written.
Second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the general public comments. And this is opportunity for the public to speak on any item that is not on the agenda, and that is in the City of Monterey's subject matter jurisdiction. So do we have anyone that wants to make a general comment not on the agenda?
There are no attendees online currently.
Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is the public hearings. And the first is to consider 581 Scott Street, a permit amendment application to historic permit for an expansion of roofing deck. And the second part is the historic permit application for alterations to the garage and the tobacco barn and adoption of the amended historic preservation report. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. My name is Chris Schmidt. I'm a senior associate planner at the city. I've been working with the applicant and owners on this project. So the project is located at 581 Scott Street. This is the historically designated Pelham House. And as the chair mentioned, that the title of this project involves especially structural alterations and expanded roof deck and adoption of historic reports, including addendums to the reports. To start with the recommendation, the staff recommends that the agency adopt a resolution approving the permit amendment to historic permit HP 240007 for the expansion of the roof deck, and historic permit HP 0104 for alterations to the garage and tobacco barn, as well as the historic report for those different scopes. Just some background information. The site has a medium density multifamily general plan designation, is zoned R36 H2 zoning district. That's the R3 zoning district with the H2 local historic overlay, and it is a 25,000 square foot, 25,550 square foot lot. So just some background information. So in July of 2023, the applicants, the owners applied to receive a contract, a Mills Act contract And they had also applied for residential addition at that time, which only required an administrative architectural review permit by staff. That was for things like repairs and minor modifications, improvements to the existing walkway and those types of things. And then in November of that year, the property was rezoned with that H2 local historic overlay. And as I mentioned, it's the Frank Hellum House, and it was zoned historic, and the Mills Act was approved. It qualified under the California Register criteria 1 and 2 for its architecture in association with Frank Hellum, who owned the Hellum Tobacco Shop on Alvarado Street. And then in July of last year, the HPC approved a 1,317 square foot addition at this site. And so here are just for further background information, here's some elevations of that addition. So on the right-hand side, we have at this top elevation is the original portion of the home, and original portion at the background of the approved addition. And then you can see as with this modern flat roof addition, that was what was approved by the HPC last year. And then on the bottom is the front facade as viewed from Scott Street. So I just wanted to orient. This is what the addition looks like kind of from the front in the background from the front of the home. And then so the scope of work that we're looking here today is, as shown on the site plan here, is improvements to the two accessory buildings here, the garage structure and the tobacco barn structure, as well as an expansion of the approved deck above an already approved first story roof, to make that clear. So the project description as described in the staff report is a 68 square foot expansion of the approved deck within the footprint of the approved dwelling, as well as restoration and alterations to the tobacco barn and garage structures. That includes things like new foundations, interior structural walls, and roof framing, new roof materials or replace roof materials, skylights, and other general repairs. So starting with the deck. So here's the deck that was approved last year, highlighted with this orange rectangle here. And I'll show on the following slide, the expansion area is to this portion of the approved roof, shown here. So on the left, we have approved, focusing on that area of the expansion. And on the right, we have the expansion. And you'll note the applicant is proposing railings, which match the railings on the other side, the glass railings, which were specifically selected so that you could see through the deck and see the original home on the other side. There's a gable addition, later addition of the home that's on the other side that was determined to be significant. And then there's also a planter box here proposed to still give a little bit of privacy to that deck area. And the architect explained this, the point of this was, the roof form was already approved. There is a window from this section here that basically looks onto the roof, and they felt that they thought that it was important for them to apply for an expansion of that roof deck. So again, here's on the left, here's the approved elevation showing the portion of the addition. This is the original portion of the home here, and then the addition here. This is approved. And then here is that new deck railing with planter box behind. So moving on to the tobacco barn and garage, here I've highlighted both those here. And just generally showing the improvements, as I mentioned, repair and replace the roof here. This would just be composite shingles, I think replacing existing composite. Improvements to the door here. The door would be repaired. It currently has plywood in these existing window openings, so they would put in new glass. There would be new skylights, and then just some general repairs as well as foundation, new foundations. Similar scope with the garage, general improvements, repairing inoperable doors and other features, as well as new skylights, putting on a new, I think it's a new wood shake styled Class A roof. So I believe that they're composite in the style of wood shake to match what has actually been deteriorating and been protected with tarps for many years now. So in order to approve the project, the city code requires that the HPC make two specific findings that really have their own findings. So the first is that the project is consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards. I have those as later slides if we want to go into the detail of any specific standards or all of them. There are 10, as you know, so I will skip those for the time being, but if we want to come back to them, that is totally fine. And then the second finding is that it requires adoption of a historic preservation report. One was adopted last year. The project historian has prepared addendums for both project scopes, for both the permit amendment and historic permit. And those focus on, as I said, focus on the project scope, but the original does include all of the requirements for a historic preservation report as required by the city code. So with that, staff recommends approval of both permits. I'm available for questions. The project architect is here, and as well as the project historians. Thank you.
All right, do we have any questions for Chris?
Sorry, I did want to note that the staff did receive comments today around 2 o'clock. Those comments were forwarded to the HBC and provided prior to the hearing in printed form. Generally, they're comments that oppose the project, and they're from neighbors within the vicinity of the project. So, thank you.
Geraldine.
My question to you, Chris, is did they, why wasn't this the plan to start with? Why do you think that it's a separate, proposal? I'm just curious in terms of that, because we went through the process before, and if it seems like what they really want is to do this, why didn't we do it when they?
Yeah, I would defer to the applicant on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions. Chris, would we see an updated maintenance schedule for these revisions?
So the maintenance schedule did originally include maintenance of the original Pelham House building as well as the significant buildings. So part of this scope would involve improvements, but as well as repairs as consistent with the Mills Act maintenance schedule. So the schedule wasn't updated because this project is generally consistent.
Okay.
Back with.
And then just to dive in a little bit about the uses of the outbuildings of the garage, and it appears the operability of the garage doors are being repaired. So that's technically covered parking for the city, I would assume. And then the tobacco building, I think there was in the comment in the historic report that it's the proposed use for that building still unknown.
Right.
And I tie it a little bit to standard one that talks a bit about the historic uses of that. And maybe we can dive into that later. But is there any requirement on the city side to identify uses for these kind of outbuildings?
Generally only if the use would require any additional permitting, like a use permit or historic permit, which, I think at this point they're looking at doing work that is going to repair and ensure the long-term, that
they remain standing.
They remain standing,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
And I'll just add to that, Commissioner Barlow, the zoning will obviously limit the uses that can happen in those two structures. It's a residentially zoned property. They are residential accessory structures. So presently they are limited to accessory uses to a residential use, and moving forward, this action will not change what uses are allowed there.
Okay.
So they'll continue as residential accessory structures.
Okay. And then just for clarification, there's no plumbing in either of these buildings, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Because there wasn't really any floor plan they had an existing, floor plan, but it didn't really show what, other than the proposed electric that was there.
Right. Yeah. I've
Okay.
been inside the buildings. I
Okay.
don't recall any plumbing fixtures. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, Geraldine.
I think the reason that I'm pursuing this, and I'm just I understand they might be able to offer more information, but I'm a little concerned when there's a plan and we approve it, and then all of a sudden it gets bigger and we have neighborhood concern. I just think, why didn't we look at this project in terms of what they really wanting to do earlier? How did it change? And it feels like we approved something and then all of a sudden it grew. And I'd like to know if it's possible, and it may not be from your point of view. You have to deal with what comes to you in terms of their requests. I understand it. But I just want to make the statement. It would be nice to kind of know the scope of work so that we could see the project in its entirety and we would understand it as a whole instead of piecing it. And then I worry that someday we look and say, wow, that wasn't what we intended at all, but it just grew by little pieces. So that's why I'm asking. Thanks for thinking about it.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. The original historic designation, did that include the barn and the garage, or was it just the house?
Yes, it did.
So the modifications to the barn and the garage should be consistent with the SOI.
Correct.
I have a question. I was curious as to, because this is a new addition, were story poles put up at all, or
For the,
just what's on paper?
for the deck, no, they weren't. It's not required by the city code for historic property.
And was there any public outreach? I mean, obviously there was because we have comments now, but how did the neighbors find out, or?
So notices are mailed, I think it's to properties within 300 feet of the property lines of the site.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for Chris? Go ahead.
I was just wondering, can we hear from the architect about
We're not there yet.
change? Oh, we're not there.
Yeah, we're not. We're just asking questions to staff right now. That'll be next. Any other questions? All right. The next one is to give the applicant opportunity to make comments or do a presentation if you'd like. And if you could state your name as well.
Yes, good afternoon, good evening. I'm the architect and the applicant. In this case, the owners are out of town. To explain the deck, we're not adding any square footage and we're adding deck boards. We're not adding anything that's exceptional. And what kind of guided this, when you look at the framing and what brought their attention to it was when they framed the roof of the hyphen is the same roof as the roof of the new one-story part of the building in the back. We've got the two-story portion that is floor-to-ceiling glass. And the way the roof was, the deck was originally designed, it was for a portion of that roof area of the hyphen. But when you get out there and you look at the framing, it's all at the same height. So what they were asking is, instead of looking at a membrane roof, let's just extend the deck so we could look at a nice deck instead of membrane roof. It's the same height, it's the same everything. There's nothing added. We're not framing up. We're not, framing out. It's already there. And I've got a picture that, so we're showing that picture now. So basically it's an existing situation. And all they want to do is, instead of visually looking at a membrane roof, is to continue the deck boards. So there's something to look at. So with the picture we're looking at now, that roof you're seeing is a membrane roof. And right now, the wood boards and the deck that was approved goes to where the door is and the edge of the existing house. So beyond that is membrane roof. So they're looking at that, and that's wrapping the corner. So the glass to the left is floor to ceiling glass. And they're going, well, why look at a membrane roof when we could just accept the wood boards and we could look at a nice wood board roof? And so that's why they're talking about wrapping it around the corner. That's the view. At the end of that, you can kind of see a curb at the end of the proposed. That's where the glass rail would go, and there'd be a planter on the inside of that. So basically, it's the same height, same view, same everything. You can't see beyond that. There's the big tree, the big avocado tree. You can't see the neighbor. The neighbor can't see us. So there's no view obstruction. There's no obstruction, and that's looking back. So you can see when you're standing in the walkway behind that glass, it's floor to ceiling. And instead of looking at the membrane roof, they just want to look at deck boards. So it's a nicer look when they're looking out. And that's basically the extent of why we're asking for that. It's not like we're, deceiving you and did something that we knew we were going to do later on. It's just something that became apparent when they got to this point of the framing. And they're saying, we don't want to look at a membrane roof. It's the same height. It's there. It's wood boards. Just put the wood boards there. So, it's not changing anything at all. It's not changing an appearance. It's not changing any viewpoints. It's not changing a thing. And so it seemed just relatively simple. The boards right now, where you see the glass in the back, the boards would go to the left of that, stop right at the left of that point. So they're just saying we want to extend it another 8 feet that direction so we can look at boards instead of a membrane roof. And that's basically the concept of why we're asking for that. There was no pre-planning. It just became apparent once they framed this. It's all the same height. Just, it's more of an aesthetic thing than anything that we're asking for.
I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
You would be adding a railing, glass railing, so that's an addition, and the planter, and also the use. Before it was just going to be the roof, and now it's going to be an accessible deck by the people living there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
change.
There's not a lot of use for that space. You could have a limited amount of people up there. It's a limited use. It's more of a place just to kind of relax and, look at the view. There's nothing you could really do in that corner, realistically. I mean, you're not going to have people sitting out there. It's not, that's not where you want to be because that's not where the view is. So all the court, everybody's going to congregate in the other direction. So it's not like we're increasing occupancy or anything up there because it's not really usable space. Like I said, it's mostly aesthetic. That's why we want to do that.
All right.
I have a question. So right now, the deck would come to the edge of that last, I'll call it a bump out, where we're looking, the hyphen, the deck boards come right to the edge of that. I'm not sure what that is. There's a circular
would show it better. The original picture you had where.
Yeah, so it would come to right there. Was there? Did the boards just end? Is there?
It ended
kind
and
of a
there's the
railing?
last rail there.
So as it is approved right now, is there any kind of a railing there?
A glass railing.
Glass railing, and then the composite roof material. So okay, thank you.
It was always flat, that portion of the roof.
Yeah, I mean, the roof is framed, that's always the way it was going to be framed. And then once they got to this point, it was just apparent that, since it's a floor to ceiling glass, why do we want to look at a membrane roof when we look at a deck roof?
All right, Julie?
Do you have any proposed lighting on that west facing, additional deck area? Or because I see one area, one light fixture where the door is. Is there any additional lighting being proposed?
No.
Okay.
And the deck area is required by code.
Yeah.
At every door you need a light, so.
All right, Geraldine?
Well, if you go back 2 frames or go forward 2 frames, I guess. No, the next one, maybe that one. It does seem like, and I'm just wondering about the flurry of letters and everything. It does seem like if in this one, the original barrier, the glass barrier, was going to be, I guess, maybe you can tell me, where was the original glass?
Can you point it out?
Yeah.
It's right at right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
So in extending it brings it around. I wonder if it's the building that we see in the picture or if there are other buildings like
The building on the left
be more
is
visible to
the existing part of the house. The thing is, it's sucked in a back corner that nobody could ever see. Nobody could ever see that corner.
Well, we're
When you-
looking
when you're
straight
looking-
into windows there of that
Well,
structure.
the windows are from the owners will see that from the window, but I mean, nobody from the public, nobody's going to see that corner.
So you're saying that the structure that we're looking at out toward the ocean belongs to these owners?
Yes, that's a property.
Well, no,
this-
she's referring
No.
to the house you see in the background,
Oh,
That's correct.
the windows of the neighbors.
oh, no, I'm
You don't
talking
need to
about,
address the
I'm
person.
just talking about the windows of this house right there that Chris is pointing at.
I'm speaking of exactly that house. It looks like I can see, 4 shapes that look like windows or doors. And I'm wondering if they feel more exposed somehow, developing that part of the deck.
Could be helpful to pull the site plan back up so that we can look at where the actual deck expansion is, and
I mean,
that
'cause
may
you-
help
Yeah,
show.
because you're way in the back of the house. I mean, the main hyphen deck is right up front there.
I understand the main deck, and there was a wall, so you wouldn't have gone out on that.
So if we can show that the deck expansion in relation to how the site is oriented. There we go.
You see the large deck up there is the main deck, and that's a glass rails. So up above it's a glass rail, and you could see that house. I mean, that's the exposure right there, where you're tucked around the wall in that corner. I mean, except for the picture I took standing up. I mean, anybody down the hill is not going to be able to get past that corner and look out.
And I was more concerned with the people that are, a feeling from the people that were in the neighborhood that they would be looked down on rather than people looking up at the deck.
Well, they're
I'm
not going to look.
trying to see what the concern is right now by looking
Well,
at
I
the
mean,
diagram.
realistically, there is no concern because where it says proposed right there on that plan, one that was just there.
Right.
It's okay. So
Oh, the parcel is good.
where it says, oh, we're too far again, but
This one?
yeah, where it says proposed, that's the main deck. That's the one that's got the glass rail and that's looking down on everybody right now. That's the one that was approved and that looks down on the whole bay and everything. The one that we're adding on is tucked way back in the corner. So that's not even an added concern because, I mean, your view is from where it says proposed, not from that little corner we're adding.
Maybe I'm projecting here, but it might be helpful for us as a commission to maybe see the parcel map where the site is and in relation to where the letters came from, because I think that's going to come up in soon when the public gets a chance to speak. Exactly. And then if we could, if it's clear from the addresses here, so we can get a sense of where the concerns from the public are coming from. And then, we know that the expanded deck is on the west side. So it's the one that's facing the Batham building.
I believe that'd be like on the Larkin Street frontage.
Kathy?
I kind of wish that we had a field trip to see this, just as we did a year ago. It seems more involved than just reading about it after seeing the letters and everything. I'd be interested to know what the rest of the commission feels.
I mean, it's a pretty, simple expansion. I mean, or it's a roof already, I mean, the roof is there.
I think we can discuss that when we get to our discussion. Because I have feelings about that too, but right now we're just asking questions.
It's not impacting views from anybody, any views that aren't already there. The one view you saw, which was towards the avocado tree, that's the only neighbor that could potentially be impacted. But as you can see, you can't even see the house and they can't see our house. It's by that huge tree.
William, go ahead.
Whose property are those trees on that are blocking the view?
our property. That's the trees on our property.
Yeah.
And Carol?
I just have a short question. What are the dimensions of the deck, the short way between the roof and the house? And then, well, I guess they're both from the roof to the house, but how big 68 square feet could be?
It's like
Most anything.
6.5 by 9 or 10.
Yeah. Okay. So 6, say the short way, and
Right.
10. Okay. Thank you.
Like I said, it's in the total tucked away back part of the house. So it really doesn't, it's not going to add any more view towards any of the neighbors down the hill. And there's the view to the closest neighbor behind us, and you can't see anything.
The reason to make this a deck, you keep talking about visually, but you could put something there that would be visually aesthetic and not have a use there. So, but it sounds like they really want to use that as a deck to stand on.
Well, I mean, it's consistent.
Okay.
There's no reason to chop areas up, for the sake of chopping them up. I mean, they're laying deck boards out. It's the same height. They just run them out and they're good.
Okay.
They do it and they go home. It's a simple kind of feature. It's a nice way to just keep the deck surface warm. A warm look. Because now it's a cold look and it gets dirty. And that way, when they have a deck, wood deck, it's aesthetically nice versus any other option.
Okay.
And it doesn't cost too much because the roof is already there. And it's just a simple solution to what they're asking.
All right. Geraldine?
Well, I am understanding that it looks good to the applicants and you're representing them and what you're saying. And this picture, it looks like there's just a big tree right there without any problem at all. But in the other picture that I was looking at a minute ago, it showed properties that could be viewed and it was a different angle.
But those properties,
So let's see that picture again.
those properties are already being viewed.
That one.
That's the other direction.
That's facing.
So that in this picture, that is not involved with this project at all.
Well, it is, but the main deck is to the left. All that's already approved. That whole area is approved. So anybody out there has got more of a view to the neighbors and more of a view down the hill. So we're not adding anything that is not already approved in your previous approval for that deck.
I'm just rephrasing it to be sure I understand what you're saying. So you're saying that in looking at this, of course, we know that the deck area in front of the sliding doors, I guess those are the sliding doors. They almost look like windows. They are windows. Okay, so that was approved before. And then around on the other side, part of that was approved before, but there's an extension.
The flat area to the left of the screen, the upper left. All that
The screen?
of the picture right here. All that was already approved.
That's already approved.
That's
Okay.
already the deck approved. And so anybody on that portion of the deck is going to look down the hill. It could look in what you're seeing now.
So that isn't a change from
No,
the original.
no,
approval.
that is the
The part
original.
that and that's what seemed to me that could have brought on the concern. So the part that we are actually changing is in the very front of it, where you can't really see it, but it's where it
It's in
says.
front of us right here. It's at the bottom of the picture. That's what we're adding.
Pardon?
What we're adding is the bottom of the picture, what you see in the
The
bottom.
bottom of the picture.
That's what we're
Yeah.
adding.
So that helps me to understand it, because I thought that since this picture seems to focus on the other part, it made me think that there was something changed about the part that has the building that can be seen with the
No, that main portion on the left, that's already part of the approval.
already
So
there. And there's going to be a glass
rail,
rail there, and there's no change to that.
there's no change to any of that. No.
Okay, that's
Okay,
clarification. I
'cause
didn't
that
understand.
is as approved and permitted. So nothing on that side is changing at all.
Okay, any other
Thank you.
questions?
I have one. I asked staff this already, but maybe do you know what the proposed use of the tobacco building
I
would
don't,
be?
and I'm not sure they know right now. Their main focus right now is to stabilize the buildings.
Yeah.
and they're doing both at the same time. The
Yeah.
garage would be the garage. Right now, none of them are conditioned. They don't have, heating or air in them right now. So they're both just,
Yeah.
and there is no plumbing.
And I just bring this up again because I don't know if there's other opportunities, especially as Levi was saying, that, the uses need to be compatible and consistent with zoning uses. And so this is the public opportunity to kind of flesh that out. If there's neighbors that are concerned, they could hear about, what that could be.
I think any use will be relative to the house, meaning that it might be like a game room. They talked about a home office. They talked about the home office in the tack room. We have to cut the tack room back a couple feet because we didn't get that 10-foot. We didn't get the reduction of the 10 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So if they think that's too small, then they may use that for part of an office, or because the building itself doesn't have a really big family social area in it. So that may become like a, game room, family room kind of thing, or kind of a social, because they have kids. And but I'm really not sure. I don't think they're really sure at this point, but that it would be associated to the house. It wouldn't be like an accessory use. And their idea is, that's the last portion of this project, of the historic component.
Yeah.
That they want to, make sure everything's secured, and because right now it's on, it's everything's sagging. It's on a wood foundation, or the sills are right on grade. In the tobacco house, the wood, the floor is right on grade. There's nothing below the wood floor.
Okay.
So they just want to stabilize everything and clean it up.
I just have a
Cheryl.
short question. This is for my own edification, but the tobacco barn is resting on soil and you're going to put a foundation under it.
Yes.
How do you do that without moving?
Well,
the building.
It's going to require some ingenuity, and they're pretty creative. So they're going to have to shore it up and then pour inside of it. And because their intent is not to tear it down or disassemble it or anything. They want to keep them whole and work with that.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're good guys, they're good contractors, and I'm sure they'll figure out a way to do what they need
In
to
this
do.
old house, they moved the whole building and then they move it back. Okay, thank you.
Cheryl.
My question's about the tobacco shed in the garage. Is it called a garage?
There's the garage, yeah.
Garage. I'm glad they're preserving them. It was part of the plan to do that, and I think that
Always, yeah.
great. And I'm wondering, in the previous slides, we saw natural light windows, it looked like, that are added to the roof line.
We're adding some low profile skylights
Skylight.
because there's no, like in the garage, there's no windows at all.
And so are those away from the street, or are those going to be seen from the street?
The tobacco barn, they're low profile and it's on the street side, but we didn't want it on the historic side where the profile, when you're looking in and you're on the property.
I'm not sure. I'm just, the idea is to care for it and maintain it and support it and preserve it, but not to change it. Right. So with, and I'm not sure about skylights, if that's a rather modern addition to an old building. So I'm just kind of seeking out whether they're on the non-visible side or the visible side.
I mean, they're allowed, and if you look at Meg's report, I think she supports where they're located.
I didn't understand you.
Our historian, Meg Clovis, she wrote a report substantiating what we've done.
So are you saying that there's somebody else? Are you saying Meg?
Meg Clovis, our historian.
Meg says that you can change the roof by adding these skylights.
She's reviewed everything we've done.
Them historic.
She's reviewed everything we've done.
I'm not sure about that. I don't know if that's historic myself. I don't know why you wouldn't want to put them on the non-historic, the non-visible side where we wouldn't be looking
We're
at.
trying to get the side where we get most light as well. And they're low profile. I mean, with the roof, they're not going to be visible at all.
It looked like visible skylights.
Well, I mean, the way they're drawn, I mean, it's very clear because it's just outlined on a plan. But when you put a dark roof on there and you put a skylight that's got a dark frame and a low profile, they're going to disappear.
Well, those are words, to me, they stood out. So I just think it's worth considering. Can they be put on the other side so they're not visible from the street?
They could, but that was the side. I mean, the other side is, has the huge trees, so you won't get very much light at all. And once again, we're not adding windows. There's basically
Actually adding skylights, they're windows.
well, whatever. But there's one small window on the what would it be, the east side, and they're keeping that and they're refurbishing that window. And then there's a door right now on the north side that has the wood panels. It's a non-operable door. It's a fixed door, basically a door panel. And they're changing the wood panels to glass. That's the only light they have in that place, and ventilation. So, I mean, the option is, adding more windows or low profile skylights that are on a slope. They're on a slope. You're going to be looking, away from them. And that's where we're getting the most light and the most advantage of taking use of skylights. Like I said, they're low profile. There'll be black frames on a black roof or a dark roof. And it's the best solution.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I'll open this up to public comments. And when you come up, please state your name for the record. And should we limit the time? 4 minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes? We'll limit the time to 3 minutes. Thank you. So come on up.
Hi. My name's Elizabeth Atkinson. I live at 236 Larkin Street. I've been there for probably 30 years. I have one question about the plan that we did look at. Does that stairwell go to the roof? Is that your exit for the roof? To the roof? Whether you're planning to have that open area?
Sorry, this is public comment, so
I know,
let's
but I
need to be
need-
direct.
Okay.
This is not a Q&A. It's
Okay,
just
I'll
dialogue.
comment on that. Okay, so this, I have 2 sentences. The person I live with is an architect. I asked for some input. That person was on NIP when they were looking at setting up the historical pictures and stuff like that. So we do care about this area. So the stairs leading to a 3rd floor in California, particularly for residential or multifamily dwellings, must adhere to specific requirements outlined in the California Building Code and the California Residential Code. So concerning spiral stairwells, spiral stairwells are permitted to be used as a component in the means of egress, that means exits, only within dwelling units or from a space not more than 250 square feet in area and serving not more than 5 occupants. And I can leave that piece of paper there. From me, as personally, this is the view from my house. I can see that roof line. This house is well loved, even though we didn't paint that house before they bought it, but it has been well loved. That's a historical house. I don't want to see any skylights on that house at all. It'll destroy the whole historic component of it. And that's what we love about being in Monterey, is having old homes, old structures. And that structure will no longer be in a historic context if you remove it from being a historical building and you put skylights on it. I don't care if they're on the front or the back. I think you will be removing it from being a historical building if you do that to it. It's gorgeous. 1 minute. Okay. This is just by general. This is a picture of that wall. I can't tell you how many times I've driven past this house and seniors are getting their pictures taken there. We love it. We love the house. We love the outside of it. And I look at that house every day. And I don't want to see skylights on it. I want to see Monterey preserve its historic past, because that's why we live here. That's why we fight for it. That's why we were on NIP. That's why we love it. Okay? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Could you guys see the pictures?
Not well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you pass the pictures around so we can look at them a little closer?
This is a view from my house. This is a view of the barn. This is a view of that beautiful fence. And the other side is a picture of this from above before they trimmed the trees.
Okay, thank you.
And you can have this piece of paper, which also says if that stairwell is not, it's expected to be an exit, that you want to know that. Thank you so much for listening.
And if you could hang on just 1 second, you can come up. No, you can come up. That's fine. We just want to look at the pictures real quick. Well,
Just for clarification, do these pictures connect with any of the letters that we received?
I don't think so.
So this is in addition to the letters. Okay, thank you.
thank you for your patience. You can go ahead.
Of course. My name is Sandra Carnazzo. I live at 218 Larkin Street, and I'm basically directly across the street from the back of this project. What's been keeping me awake at night is thinking when you said rooftop deck, and even looking at the plans, am not clear if I'm going to be looking down on that rooftop deck from where I am. I am happy to pass around pictures of my view from my home,
Okay.
if that helps you to understand. When we did that project in 2005 and 6, we redid a home that was built in 1896 and pretty well thoroughly ruined by termites over those years. And my 1-year project that I thought was going to be pretty quick turned into a 3-year project. And we hired architects who have advanced degrees in historic restoration so that we could meet what I ended up believing very strongly in and appreciating the Old Town neighborhood designation for our area. And as I understood it, the plan supports retaining Old Town character and valuing the historic nature of the neighborhood. I'm a day late and dollar short in saying it, and I fault myself for that, but I feel like the new structure that's happening at the property that we're discussing is not compatible with that goal. The beautiful Helm house that's there, I mean, obviously needed to be updated just as mine did, but I don't see the compatibility of a very modern structure. I think it's probably lovely in another setting. I don't see it there. And a deck that has glass across the front of it just sort of increases that very modern look next to that historic property. I just would like clarification from the architect or someone to tell me when I'm sitting on my property, am I going to be looking down at people, patio furniture, or whatever's happening on that property? And when Perry House became a public place for entertaining, it's not a big problem when I hear all the noises. That neighborhood collects noise. You can hear people calling across to their neighbor. It's very pleasant. But Perry House has been really cooperative about a curfew. I think it's 10 o'clock. So when I hear parties going on, I think, happy life to you, and weddings are happening there. And I'm perfectly fine with that. My dread when I heard about this project was, am I going to be seeing people having social engagements on that rooftop? It just doesn't seem compatible.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Anybody else like to make a comment?
Chair Rath, members of the commission, my name is John Bailey. I'm here with Kim Evans, owner at 211 Larkin. Kim and her husband Jake are my clients. We did present on this matter before. I'm a little shocked, honestly, to see it come back to you all. And last time we came, the issue was specifically privacy, because 211 Larkin, and good questions as to when you're looking at that deck, you're not just looking at an avocado tree. You're looking directly into my client's bedroom, their kitchen, directly into their house. You're looking down on their backyard. And that was addressed before. It was addressed with a site visit. I would recommend doing another site visit. If memories are short and you all have forgotten, let's do it again. But when you go there and you look, you'll see you're looking directly into my client's property. It is very intrusive on their privacy. And the Planning Commission recognized that. The Planning Commission actually dialed this back last time and said, we're not going to give a setback variance because it's too intrusive on the privacy of the people at 211 Larkin, who are my clients. So it was dialed back. Now I'm shocked to find not only do they not dial it back, they're coming back and asking for more from you all. For a project that is a Mills Act covered project, read the Mills Act contract. That was a good question. What is in the Mills Act contract? I've attached it to my comment letter. See what they were spending their money on. Look at the prior historic report. And remember, a historic report is project specific. This is 3 projects now. They're trying to tack the same historic report on. They're trying to add to the size of the project with each subsequent amendment. Last time I appealed it, I made that exact comment that they'd done a historic report on a smaller project and then the square footage had increased. Finally, I don't want to run out of too much time here. It's important to note on the tobacco barn and the garage, if they dig those foundations as they're digging them, there is a sewer lateral that serves the neighborhood residences, multiple residences in that neighborhood. They want to remove their only access to sewer, which has been there for, I think, 50 years. And that's not put into this report. That's an environmental impact that needs to be considered if this project's going to be approved. So this is a can of worms. Don't think that it's not. It is not simple. And I don't want to quote the applicant through hearsay, but to say it was important to them to apply for this expansion. What's so important about this expansion? This should have been in the original project. Project is approved. Don't expand it. Leave it where it is. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Anybody online that would like to comment?
There are no attendees currently online.
Can we go ahead and remind, oh, there's no attendees?
Currently, no attendees.
Okay, so I'll close the public comments. Thank you very much. And let's committee comments. I have a bunch, but who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
Far away.
Okay. Where do I start? I guess I don't think there's a need for an expansion of the deck. I think there's alternatives to make it look like the deck, but not expand that deck. So aesthetically, so I'm not convinced that there's a need to do the expansion. And then I guess that's all I want to say on that. The skylights, I agree with Geraldine that I would be very concerned about putting skylights into a historic building without further review. So personally, I would hesitate to vote either way on this without a further either a field trip or some way to really see what the neighbors are seeing and what's the intent is. I don't think I have enough information. I can't visualize it. So those are my comments. And I would be concerned about the sewer line having sewer problems this morning with this city sewer line at my house. So I would be concerned about that too, but I don't know if that's in our purview as a historic preservation commission. All right.
I mean,
Really?
okay. So I'll kind of go, there's a few different projects going on. So with the garage and the skylights, typically I don't feel putting skylights into a roof would necessarily detract from the historic designation of this. I think those are removable. It's like a new roof. In this particular case, it's the ones, fronting Larkin. It's the most visual. It's a short elevation. It's going to be eye level when you're walking. There seems to be a lot of concern about the change of the appearance of that. I do support that concern, but I think typically I wouldn't want to say that we don't agree that skylights should be in historic buildings, because I think it's done on a case by case basis, in my personal opinion. I'm just going to drill down to the uses again, because I feel this is the opportunity to disclose that, and the applicant's not here today to talk about that. The architect, said what some uses could be, but there's not another chance for the public to kind of weigh in. There's privacy concerns, there's noise concerns, there's light. I think it's important to disclose that, up front. And we're wrestling with these like piecemeal additions and modifications that happen. And if they know that they were going to be updating the tobacco and the tobacco barn and the deck, these things could be thought out. And I think we all struggled with this originally. I mean, this was continued and we went out to the site. I don't think that's a reason for denial. I'm just saying we should have that information presented to us, hopefully the first time when it comes to us. Regarding the deck, I don't think it's as it currently is with the existing vegetation, it's not really visible. It's not going to be something that with the existing trees that are there. Again, trees die, things change, but I don't think it's going to be so much of a concern for the neighbors, just for the location, because there's already an approved deck that we approved on the east side, and I think the extension of it probably doesn't change the flow pattern or the amount of people, or I personally, I'm not struggling with that so much, other than it was already a flat roof. Why wasn't that thought out before? I mean, this is, these are things that could have been presented to us in the beginning. And I think the fact that we struggled with this so much, having these little scope creeps and coming that puts us in a situation, it puts neighbors, makes the neighbors concerned, because it's something that, there should just be more open communication in the beginning. And I think that would have been more helpful in this situation. I also think that we never really saw a landscape plan, even with the first house. And I don't know if that would necessarily help the neighbors along Larkin, but seeing the addition and the modification of the second story, especially along Scott, and then the road right along the Perry house, I think we would have benefited to see a little bit of screening from the beginning. Those are my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Kathy, do you want to?
Yes, basically, I agree with what I've heard, and I'm afraid I was premature in suggesting a field trip, but that's my bottom line. We were there at the site over a year ago, and there was no building. Now the addition is there. I'd like to maybe get on that deck and see exactly how far out it will go. I do have a concern for the neighbors and what they're seeing, and I'd like to see it from their viewpoint. So again, I'd like to go back.
Carol.
I don't think any of us were really happy with this project when it came up, but we approved it. Okay, not Linda. But this mission creep is a little concerning, though. If it was my house, I would want to probably make that part of the deck. When I look at it, I think, oh, well, that's where they're going to put the barbecue. They're just going to jam all the equipment down there. But what can they see and what can be seen of that deck? Again, if it had been part of the original project, probably it wouldn't have risen to this much discussion, because we had so many other things to discuss. The thing that really is bothering me is the plumbing underneath, and what do they know? Where do we must have sewer maps.
Yeah, we actually have not been provided any documentation of the existing lateral that's been brought up. So staff's not aware of existing. If it's a private lateral, the city doesn't always have those mapped. We have mains that are mapped for sewer mains and water mains, but private property laterals, some of those are very old, aren't.
So that might be their own.
It's going to be a lateral. Yeah, that services between the main and a individual property.
So it's not going to affect other properties.
Sometimes they run through other properties, so it's possible, but a lot of these are very dated and without easement, and this has not been, no documentation showing the location of that sewer lateral has been provided to staff.
Okay, because that's the big concern, and they're putting a new roof on, a skylight is reversible, so you've convinced me on,
I'll just kind of add to that. So it's important that we stay cognizant of the purview of the commission and that things like sewer lateral, things like that fall into the building code, things like uses fall into the zoning code, and outside of, Secretary of Interior Standard for Rehabilitation #1, there's really nothing that pertains to use that's within the purview. That standard states that a property shall be used for its historic purpose or be placed in a new use that requires a minimal change to its defining characteristics. So that's the extent of the purview in terms of use, is how it's affecting the design and the defining characteristics of the structure. Outside of that, the zoning and a different body dictates what the appropriate use is. And same with the sewer. I think it got brought up in terms of a CEQA impact, but assuming that building code is all met, that would not be a significant concern.
Okay, thank you. Those were my concerns, and not terribly important. Go ahead.
Can I just clarify what you just said? So we're just looking at the building itself and the compatibility and whatnot, and not anything around it or view shed or anything like that?
So that's part of it. The use itself is not necessarily like when in terms of the accessory structure and talking about what that's going to be used for. The zoning is what dictates what the use is appropriate. There is a level of purview that this commission kind of steps into in terms of if the new use required significant changes to the historic, defining characteristics, that would then come into the purview of this commission. But of course, things like the findings still all have to be made in terms of, design review in terms of privacy impacts, view impacts, and all that. Correct.
So we can consider privacy impacts.
You can.
Okay, right. Thanks, William.
All right. I kind of agree with all the concerns about the tobacco shed and the garage. I wouldn't want to say yay or nay on any of that until we see some sort of plan for how they're going to do the foundation, what the foundation's going to look like. I really think that needs to be a separate application because those are the historic buildings, whereas the deck is just talking about the extension that they previously approved. As far as the deck, the extension, I don't see why they can't just continue with decking boards and leave partition or the glass wall, whatever, where it currently is. Aesthetically, they would achieve the effect that they're looking for, looking out their window and not seeing the synthetic roof. But it would address the concern of the neighbors that back there and seeing what's going on. I think some of the concerns expressed about seeing people partying on the roof and whatnot. Looking at the pictures of what it is now, I think they might be confused that they're partying up on the top of the second story extension, not on the deck that's a floor below. Because from their pictures, they can't see the deck. So, the public's concern over noise and the visual aspect of people using it, it's not mentioned.
Just a point. I think we do have in the plan review set the foundation plans and a framing plan for the accessory buildings.
There is. There is. It doesn't elaborate exactly on the construction methods that
Right.
were being asked about, but there is a foundation plan that's provided for both accessory structures.
And it would be minimally visible, I'm assuming.
Non-visible from the exterior.
Carol,
Still rather see it. Step down.
Carol.
Well, I want to thank the neighbors for providing this picture because it does show clearly that the adding the light daylight, what do they call it? Skylights would be really very visible, and they wouldn't, to me, just look like a roof. They would stand out, and I don't think it would make. I really think this is such an attractive, historic looking view, and I'm not happy to think of skylights popped into it. I also think another visit might either make us more comfortable with the addition or clarify that in a way that we can see that it doesn't interfere with neighbors, and it would just clarify it a little bit if we could see it. So I support another visit. I think, and I want to thank the people who presented. I like to hear what the neighbors, how they feel about it. I want them to consider that perhaps the opportunity to talk about some of that deck is passed and we've approved it. And maybe the fact that it's being constructed, they become more aware of it because visually there it is. But I think it's good for them to come and share their thoughts with us, and I appreciate them coming in. And actually, the picture made it even more clear to me what the skylights would do on the roof line. So I just wanted to thank you for your participation.
Thanks. All right. So do we have a motion? What do we want to do?
All right.
So
Struggle.
I'll just chime in. So it sounds like before the commission feels comfortable making an action in one direction or the other, they would like a field trip arranged. So I think the appropriate motion would likely be a continuance in order to allow that to be scheduled. I will note, staff's happy to arrange that and schedule that. It is an active construction site right now, so we may have to take a look at the time frame in which we can get the site to, and the applicant may be able to provide an updated status on the status of the site. But I do know they're in construction with the original project, so there's some safety concern there with having a public meeting on the site with its still an active construction site. So staff may have to look into that further before we can schedule that. So with that, I would recommend a continuance to a date uncertain since we don't have a timeline on that.
All right. So do we have a motion?
I move that we accept advice to request a continuance. It would be a continuance or it would be a denial from my point of view. So continuance gives each side a chance to, look at what their proposal is, and if there could be some adjustments. So I move that we request a continuance until we have more information.
So the continuance would be to have another field trip when at an appropriate time.
Yes, the continuance so that we could have a field trip and allow for a little time that they might think about the plans and give us a chance to see it. So definitely a field trip would be part of the continuance.
I'll second that. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed, so the continuance that motion has been approved to continue. And so we don't need to do the appeal thing.
No.
Okay, thank you for everyone for coming today. Appreciate it. Good information. Okay, the next item.
It's paper.
The next public hearing item is to consider 817 Martin Street. It's a Mills Act contract application with H2 Historic Zoning, and the applicant is Gregory Bernard, and the owner is, property owner is Gregory Bernard and Jessica Bernard. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Fernanda Roveri, Principal Planner for the City of Monterey. The request before you today is for a Mills Act contract and City Historic Resource zoning for 817 Martin Street. Staff's recommendation is that the HPC recommend that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council adopt the rezoning of the property to give it City Historic Resource zoning, and that the HPC recommend that the City Council approve a Mills Act contract for the property. So 817 Martin Street, you can see it on the screen. It faces Martin Street in the Monterey Vista neighborhood, which is here. It's a neighborhood that has not been surveyed for historic resources. So, for example, New Monterey and Old Town have both been surveyed, and it's called the windshield survey, where a historian drives around and pinpoints properties that appear to qualify for historic zoning based on their architecture. But this neighborhood has not been surveyed. So it's up to the property owner to identify their building as potentially historic and to commission a historian to prepare a survey. And so this is how this project came forward today. The intensive survey was prepared by qualified professional Kent Seavey, who found that the Brugier Cottage qualifies as a city historic resource based on California Register Criteria 2 and 3. Criterion 2 is properties that are associated with the lives of significant persons in Monterey's history. Mr. Seavey found that 4 families resided in the Brugier Cottage between circa 1909 and 1969. And these 4 families contributed to the civic and cultural development of Monterey. They include the Brugiers, the Macaulays, the Snooks, and the Powers. I would let the historian speak more about them because he's the expert, but the Brugiers were the family that established this residential subdivision in this area of the Monterey Vista neighborhood. The Macaulays were doctors, and they established the first modern hospital in Monterey at the Pacheco Adobe. The Snooks had a construction, residential construction company, and the Powers, Frank Powers was one of the founding fathers of Carmel. The property also qualifies under Criterion 3. Although the property has components that may individually lack distinction, together the components exemplify mid-1910s architectural design in Monterey, in this neighborhood specifically. The 2-story wood-framed residence is asymmetrical in plan and eclectic in design, and it reflects both vernacular and Monterey colonial elements. Also, it reflects some French chateau architecture as well, which I will show. And on the left is the vernacular architectural component, which it lacks detail. It's very, minimalistic compared to the Monterey Colonial, which has more, the balcony, the 2nd-story balcony is very character defining of Monterey Colonial Revival architecture. And the 2-story wood framing is also character defining. And this is, this is the back of the property. And this is what you see from Martin Street. Again, the Monterey Colonial original design from circa 1905. shows the two-story wood frame construction. Then immediately to the right, there is an undated modern addition, which has a French chateau-like roof on one of the addition rooms. And then to the right is a modern day garage, two-car garage. What's interesting about this property is that, like I mentioned, this was the Brugier's home. And the Brugier's, I read a little bit about it, and they were active in San Francisco as well, but they decided to build a 50-lot subdivision in this part of Monterey. And they built their home there. And there was also this gate, which is still there today, is at the corner of Alameda Avenue and Colton Street. This was the gate that led into their estate. And you can see to the right, this is an early photo of that gate from, I believe, the caption on the photo said 1912, but there was someone painting the gate, and it's been painted in multiple mediums over time. It's the gate today is missing that roof, but the stone structure is still there. And now that subdivision has been, it's basically built out. There are many homes that are now built in that what's now called the Dowd Tract. And so, according to the intensive survey, the property meets the eligibility requirements because the property was identified as a city historic resource, and it also qualifies for the Mills Act program because a maintenance schedule was submitted that shows that the property will be maintained in perpetuity in exchange for a property tax saving. The maintenance schedule includes repairs to all aspects of the property, such as roofing, chimney, siding, windows, doors, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and outdoor areas. With that, staff recommends that the HPC pass these requests on to the Planning Commission and City Council. With that includes my presentation, and I'm available for questions as well as the applicant and the historian.
Do we have any questions? Sure.
So the garage is 2009. The modern edition, do we have a date on that?
No.
And since the house was built previous or around 1910, was there no historic anything done when the garage was approved?
I did not find it. So the interesting thing about Monterey Vista neighborhood, so one of them is that it hasn't been formally surveyed. And the second one is that it is not a design review neighborhood. So any single story additions to homes or to properties in this neighborhood do not require planning review. So it wouldn't have come to the planning office at all.
So that might explain the cupola on top of.
We wouldn't have reviewed it. No.
Clearly. I couldn't find the house. I drove up there and there are virtually no numbers. And then I think I'm in the right area and it doesn't look, I'm looking for the Monterey Colonial part. And then I realize I'm sitting in front of the house. It was rather confusing and much larger than I had thought, but okay.
Sure. I just think, I did call in and share my thoughts with Fernanda. when we have a project as unusual as this one, it would be nice to have a site visit so we could just sort of walk around and get a sense of the eras of the property and how it's put together. And I appreciate the fact that, although it's hard to believe that this neighborhood doesn't have to bring a major change or even a large structural change to the planning department, it seems like planning would want to perhaps look into that and have some guidelines for changes just for safety and other concerns. I can't imagine it really. I do know they didn't do the drive by or the look out the window review. It certainly does have a historic background in terms of the people in it, but it's a hodgepodge in terms of architectural styles, and it just was. I felt I needed to know to really know more about it, and an actual site visit when we have these new properties that are hard to understand would be appreciated.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify that single-story additions, meaning ground level additions in this neighborhood, do not require planning review, but anything above a first story, so any second-story addition does require planning review, because that's when we get into view impacts and privacy impacts and things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. When I drove by it, it actually looks like 3 garages. It's camouflaged like 3 separate garages, and you mentioned 2. So I don't know. I didn't kind of Carol's thoughts. It's sort of like, now where is this? And like, wow, here it is, and it's really pretty big. So I had the same feeling about it. I drove around the block to try to see it from other points of view. Hard to see with houses and trees and everything blocking it. I have to go back and find the gate. I wonder if that nice slide you showed with the artist in front comes from the honeymoon book that
The honeymoon artist.
That's what it looked like to me. That it reminds me of. Yeah, that's good. Thanks
I
for
have that book.
supporting my memory on that. So and it's the reverse of it. So she was painting it from the other side, because you see the little arch doorway was on the left in the other side. So it's great to get to know this property, and I'm glad they are looking out to preserve it, and it's nice to learn about the people that live there. And
Questions right now?
So-
We'll discuss.
yeah, so thank you.
You're right, though. It is a 3-car garage.
It is a
I
3-car
misspoke.
garage, okay.
I said 2.
Any other questions for Fernanda?
Question. All of the items on the maintenance schedule, do they apply to the original structure or to the entire property?
They apply to the entire property.
Anything else? Great, thank you, Fernanda. Would the applicant like to say something or make a presentation?
Just a quickie, you're looking at from Martin Street, the reverse, the back of the original building envelope. Bergier's wife, Vera, was the designer. And what you're seeing something is predicated on, we have 50 lots. What are we going to do? Monterey is a different fish. And there's an image, if you look up or to your scenes now, what you're seeing is the interior of a vernacular manor house. The brick on the back, that wonderful horseshoe arch on the back, you can actually see how it functions on the inside of the building. But if you'll notice, looking at the ceiling, this is a single story. It's a one single wall construction. She was given about 8 minutes to do that before the divorce. And that was her part. You have to remember that whole hill was pretty much owned by Charles Rollo Peters and Bohemian Club members, including Bergier And interestingly enough, Herbert Hoover a little later on, Martin. These guys were all out of the Bohemian Club coming up before and after Charles Rollo Peters. So we don't have a builder. And we have 2 or 3 buildings that have some similar activity in it, some adjacent to it. But they all turn out to be within 20, 25 years. 16, the Martin House, 1924. So the unique aspect of this, that this was early, we could say if we wanted to do it, city planning. Selling a residential neighborhood to friends and neighbors from the club. But the thing that knocks my socks off is the sequence of associated people who lived in it. 1, 2, 3. Bourgier, the Bohemian Club. He was a founder of the old Capitol Club in Monterey. He was the builder, the developer of the Dowd property, first one. Then you have Dr. Macaulay. Sarah Macaulay was Sarah Hatton. She was the dairyman's daughter who was a medical doctor in 1920. And the 2 of them together started the first hospital in Monterey. They sort of brought modern medicine to Monterey. She was killed in an automobile accident in 22. How do we know that image I showed you of the interior was the interior? Because when you read her obituary, it talks about the crowds of people who came. It was supposed to be a meeting place. That's where they were going to sell the subdivision from. But how the great room was filled, but the rest of the people were along the under the Spanish portion, along that fence. So that's how we know that was there at that time. Trying to dig this stuff up was pretty, the owner did a very good job, but it was on it went. So what happens next? Well, Dr. John Snook, associate with Macaulay, buys the house and brings his wife Harriet here. And his son, Walter Snook, who was about the time they bought it at Stanford University, had been in World War I, had become an American, actually a French flying ace, and did a lot of things, but he was also a building contractor in this town. There, as you go through the gate, immediately to the right, you'll see a very interesting building, and then a much more interesting one beyond that. There's Snook buildings. The building across the street from this on Martin Street is a Snook building. He was one of the master builders for about 15 or 20 years before he went back in the late 20s to World War II and became a ship's captain, and then went into an entirely different business. There was a problem. His father was named John. His mother was named Harriet. The historic documents that you look at have Snook in 2 houses because they had 3 houses developed around their own. And by the way, it looked at Camino, the road in front. Your front looked down the hill. You could look up and see it. And so just unwinding that, because people thought there were 2 Walter Snooks. There never were. They just happened to keep moving in and out of each other's houses. And then Powers shows up. And Powers is the son of Frank Powers, one of the co-developers of Carmel. But he's also a major culinary figure in Monterey for a number of years. He died in the house in 69. That's why that date for the passage. So you have major elements in the development of Monterey: medicine, architecture, land development, and culinary or hospitality, all in the same place in that one period of time. And that's a wonderful opportunity to deal with the concept of association. So any questions you have, I'd like to try to help out. But that the owners currently are wanting to keep that in one piece, I think is a wonderful proposition.
Okay. Any questions?
And Herbert Hoover, did I mention that Herbert was also a Bohemian Club member? Questions for me as historian, or I can sit
I
down?
just have a comment that I believe we were giving a lot of credit to Henry Hoover, but it was his wife's family home, the Lou Henry Hoover. It was.
No, it was the Henry House. Yes, the
Yeah,
Henry House.
So before.
And it was a vacation spot for the
yes,
Hoovers
and
while they were at
she
Stanford.
was a person in her own right. I think one of the first.
Sure. Well, he was one of the first
female chemistry, whatever. But
Henry was one of the first bankers,
so,
and he was also Bohemian.
Yeah. Just want to give Lou Henry Hoover her due.
Oh, no. She was an exceptional woman.
Yes.
Coming out of Stanford, she was absolutely
Chemical
exceptional.
engineer, I think.
No.
Okay,
So
that was a comment, not a question.
they all got a lot done.
Yeah.
Any questions? All right. Do we have any public comments?
The owner.
The owner, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, if I could, just, I mean, first, we don't tell my children that Albert Gallatin Powers died in the house. So if we,
Oh,
my two little ones will not sleep ever again. So, no, I just wanted to say that this whole experience, I love history. We just moved from DC a little under a year ago, and getting a chance to learn about Monterey through this house has been wonderful. Sitting in the county recorder's office and going through the deeds and trying to sort out which Walter Snook is actually in the house and not in the house. It's just been really an incredible experience. And my wife, as she talks about the house, has said we feel more like stewards rather than owners. And so doing this to try and recognize the value of the home to Monterey, and partially really just to sort out like how did the decisions get made to make this house and what it is today. I mean, we only traced it up through 1979, and there's still a lot to still uncover, but figured that was probably good enough to stop for the purposes of this process. But yeah, also happy to answer any questions that you have in terms of the maintenance plan or the elements of the house and what we've discovered as we were looking at the floors. And in that photo, you'll see there's carpet. The whole house was carpeted. Well, I ripped up all the carpet and it's all the original flooring, which is
great.
amazing. Although I don't quite understand why they didn't have any subfloors. It's just dirt and then that wood, which very dusty. But yeah, so happy to answer any questions that you all might have for me as well.
William, go ahead.
Do you know how much of the fixtures and fittings in the house are original?
So there is, I don't know in total, but there are three kind of interesting things. There's one knob and tube light in that wooden great room that still works. And it has this weird old light bulb in it that flickers. It's like an early LED flicker light, which is fascinating. There's another one of those fixtures that doesn't work. And then there's a random sink faucet. There's no sink there. And I assumed when I moved in it was decorative until a friend of mine was like, "Oh," and turned it on and water came out. And
Jeez.
so I don't know, but there are some really fascinating, just kind of unique elements that we've tried to, we didn't get rid of it. We just kept them because they're cool, if not functional at all. So.
Also, how are the figures for your maintenance schedule derived?
So I looked at, I've received a number of quotes from contractors in terms of what we needed. One of you, Miss O'Neill, I think you had said that it was a lot bigger than you expected.
Oh, yeah.
We had the exact same reactions. We bought the house sight unseen from DC. So we had a realtor that we addressed. We were coming here for a job. For some reason, California schools start a month earlier, so we weren't quite prepared. We ended up buying the house, and it turned out to be the best decision. That we fell in love with it, but it was a lot bigger than we expected it to be. Yeah, so those numbers are from quotes, and then I just replicated them over the how many years we would expect to have to do that type of work. So that's where that comes from.
Any other questions?
I've got, William asked the same question, the maintenance, but I also looked at the knob and tube replacement, not realizing it was just one light fixture. And I'm thinking, you're going to do that for $500?
Yeah, so the knob and tube, with the exception of that one fixture, which I want to leave, there's knob and tube throughout, but it's not connected. So it's really just the removal of it, of the old stuff, the porcelain knobs, and then the
okay. Yeah. So the flickering light, two things it could be. One is a very old Edison light, or it could be Gallatin Powers.
Oh.
But I believe he is down at Stokes Adobe.
So I believe that too. I have heard about the Stokes Adobe ghost, and I'm hoping that he chooses to spend his time down there and not in the house.
Yeah.
But again, this is between us.
Okay.
My kids are not.
I understand. I understand.
No public record here.
Yeah. Thank
Any
you.
questions?
No.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll open it up to any public comments. Anybody online?
There are no attendees online.
Okay. All right, so commission comments.
I'm on board with this.
Okay.
I would just like to say this has been such a wonderful history lesson. The work that you did compiling these owners and the backgrounds. I am familiar with your home. I attended an estate sale there years ago, so I knew where it was. And I walked last night by all the homes in that area. Also, I'm very familiar with the old Monterey Inn and the Martin family and the Powers family, as Kent knows I am. So I think it's fascinating. I think you should be recognized, and thank you.
This man did a heck of a lot of work.
I can see that.
Deep diving. As an owner,
Look at my highlighting, Kent. I really enjoyed this.
All right, Julie?
Yeah, I mean, I've always get very thrilled when I see a homeowner get very excited, and I was touched by that and excited to have you in the community and want to treasure this house. I think my only comment comes down to the maintenance schedule and our commitment to try to make these a little bit more consistent and remove things that aren't necessarily related to the house historic nature itself. And I think it's hard. I mean, William, you mentioned like what's with the original versus additions. I think that's a little bit hard for some of the interior and work. The only ones I would suggest maybe striking are under the grounds for the fencing, driveway, and maybe tree trimming. I know historically we've mentioned to try to remove those items from maintenance schedules to make things consistent. So that would be my only suggestion.
Geraldine, do you have anything to say?
I think I'm still kind of overwhelmed with it. I think it's a huge project. I'm even thinking about the floor and the dust. You know, if there was any way to work with that a little bit, or put
floor dust.
Yeah, something underneath somehow to help protect it. But I'm just kind of impressed with it, and it's sort of like having a treasure right under our noses that we haven't been thinking about for a long time. So thanks for shedding light on it.
William? No? I agree with everybody. So do we have a motion?
I'll move that we accept staff's recommendation for historic zoning and a mills contract. Can I do it all at one?
You can. I just want to wait if we're gonna, whether or not there's any discussion on whether or not to incorporate the recommendations of Commissioner Barlow in the motion. The modifications we can have that condition read into the record, and then.
I think what we've done in the past is basically have the applicant work with staff to remove items from the maintenance schedule that aren't necessarily related to the preservation of the house.
Okay.
And I mean, the ones I mentioned were the fencing, the driveway, and the trees, because I know we talked about that before. But we can leave it up to staff to work
Yeah.
with the applicant.
There's plenty left on the maintenance schedule.
I know, it's a lot. I just trying to be consistent.
And so, one of the things.
So I'm sorry, we have closed the public hearing. We can reopen the public hearing if the chair wishes, but
Yeah, let's do that. Let him.
We can reopen the public
So the driveway side.
please just come to the podium. Yeah,
to the,
Thank
so they can hear you on.
So driveway aside, which is fine. One of the reasons that I did focus on the grounds is throughout the history of the house, it was noted for the gardens. of
Yeah,
the area.
yeah.
So in terms of the fencing and the trees, we've been trying to restore the gardens. So in fact, my mom is here this week and that's what she's doing. So we're working on that. And so that's why I included.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm okay either way, but I wanted you to know the intent behind including those was to try and restore sort of the garden element of the house, which has 1, 2, 3, like 4 separate yards
Yeah.
associated with it.
And I think if we leave this to allow the applicant those kind of interchanging to work with staff, because I agree, we've allowed, especially when it's attached to the house or there's a continuance of walls and things, like we've acknowledged that requires a lot of maintenance and time and money. So if the fencing is part of that, that's fine. We can maybe leave it a little bit open to staff to work with them.
Yeah, we're happy to work with the applicant and more narrowly define that to the historic defining features.
Will I need to include that?
Yeah, if you'll just include that a condition that the applicant work with planning staff on a revised maintenance schedule.
Hope I remember that. So.
Actually, yeah, we'll need to check for public comment and close the public hearing if there's anyone online.
Okay, I'm closing the public hearing.
Well,
Is there-
I believe Mr. Sue.
Just briefly, one word.
He's gone to the podium, Ken.
Okay, come up to the podium.
The historic property and its environment. And its environment is what it says in the text.
Which text?
What a historic property is.
Oh,
It is the historic property and its environment. And that would be the property outline in this instance, probably. That's all.
Well,
All right,
I have something to add. If,
can we just wait and let me close the public hearing?
okay,
And then any public comments?
There are no attendees online currently.
So then we'll reopen the commission comments. Go ahead, Carolyn.
my thinking is, and I really respect Julie's thoughts on it, but she was pretty flexible. Do we need to mention that part at all? That, in terms of, in terms of the detail of the maintenance schedule, do we need to put that in, or how do we want to do that? I'm just wondering if the grounds are kind of part of this project because they're really important, and if they want to include the grounds, is that a problem?
I think in some cases, no. I think sometimes, like what Ken's saying is right. The historic fabric includes the environment. I think we've been pressed in some situations where every property, needs to trim trees. Every property needs new fencing. That shouldn't be unique to the maintenance schedule here.
I see.
With that said, we don't have parameters of dollar amounts associated to these schedules. I mean, they're all over the place when we get them. And so I think we talked about this about a year ago, trying to make things a little bit more consistent and have more guidance to applicants coming through when they come and put these schedules together. And so when I see things that jump out to me like fencing, that could be a low-hanging fruit that maybe we could take that off, but maybe it's fencing that's, historically positioned and attached to the grounds. I don't really know because it's not lined out here, but I think that's something that they could work with the city staff on. And then, that could be determined with the understanding of what our purview is here to either remove that or keep it in because it's actually part of that environment fabric.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Commissioner Barlow is correct. The intent of the Mills Act program is to provide some financial relief to offset the costs associated with maintaining a historic property. So ideally the maintenance schedule would represent things that are unique to the historic property that are would require additional maintenance that would burden a property owner of a historic property. So it is intended to offset the costs associated with a historic property that you would not necessarily come across on a non-historic property. So, you know, in terms of things like a driveway or fence, if that driveway was constructed using some kind of historic material that would be more expensive or require more attention than, say, a standard concrete driveway on a new residence, that would be something that would be appropriate to be included. So I'll also just note that the what's listed in the maintenance plan is a exhibit for this commission to evaluate what the owner anticipates as cost associated with the maintenance of the property. It has minimal impact on the actual financial relief associated with the contract. So just know it's not like one thing removed here has a large impact on what the actual Mills Act benefit is. Yeah.
Okay, you want to try again?
I don't know. I've forgotten all the details. So I move that we accept staff's recommendation for historic zoning H2 for 817 Martin Street and Mills Act contract with, are we still doing something with staff? Staff. Yeah, I'm trying to get the addendum. Do we need?
Yeah, with the special condition that the applicant work with planning staff with a revised maintenance schedule.
With the condition the applicant meets with the planning staff on the revised maintenance schedule. Thank you. And do I have to say that it goes to recommend that the city council adopt the resolution?
Correct.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. So the motion has passed. And let's see. This can be appealed within.
This is a recommendation, so it's actually not an appealable action.
Okay, good. I don't have to say that. All right. Okay, thank you very much. It's passed. Congratulations. It's an exciting project there. All right, the next item is public appearances to confirm the annual appointments for the chair and vice chair. And I haven't done this before. Do I just say who it's going to be or what? Oh, staff report. Okay, good. Okay.
So the staff report recommendation is that the chair position go to Commissioner Juan Rodriguez, but since he's not here today, I recommend that we continue the item or that we continue with current appointments until a meeting where he's present.
Okay. So I get to continue with this. Yeah, I do. Okay, so we will continue this item until Juan is here.
Do we want to take public comments too? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll still need to take public comment and get a motion in a second on that action.
okay. Do we have any public comments?
There are no attendees online.
Okay. And do we have a motion to continue this item?
I'll move that we continue this item till the next meeting.
Okay, all in favor? Say
Just for the record, that was continued to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
That
So
regularly scheduled.
got it.
Yeah.
okay. Second, okay. Yeah. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I guess I won't. No. Just kidding. All right, so the last item is.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if this is right. I know a lot's going on, talking about combining commissions, et cetera, et cetera. My term is up. And I didn't want to bother you folks, but I was just wondering, is it on hold right now because of what's going on with the city council or what?
Yeah, so we'll connect with you offline if for any commissioner's term has ended, you obviously have the option of seeking reappointment or not seeking reappointment. If you wish to seek reappointment, we'll connect with you and get that information from you, and we'll coordinate with the city clerks. Obviously, there is a conversation at the council level with consolidation or merger of certain boards and committees. That's kind of still no decisions really been made as it pertains to this commission on that. So that could impact everyone's position on this commission moving forward, but that decision hasn't been made. So we are operating under the former rules. Yeah. We'll connect offline if and get you coordinated with the city clerk's office on that.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, any commissioner comments? Carolyn?
So I'm just curious to follow that line of thought. What is the next step? Do you expect another report or?
Yes, this will go back to that topic of conversation will come back before the city council before for additional discussion and more and a formal decision at the city council meeting when that was last discussed and considered. There was a consensus amongst the council to consolidate the planning commission and the architectural review committee. There was less of a consensus to merge this commission with the Museum and Cultural Arts Commission. So it's still something that I think is being explored if there is possibility for that, but there was not, but there will be an item brought back before the city council in regards to the consolidation of the planning commission, the architectural review committee. And at that same meeting, they will probably make a formal decision on whether or not this commission would be consolidated or not.
You think that's coming pretty soon?
I don't have an exact date for you. I would say in the next probably 30 to 60 days. But I'll certainly notify this commission if anything is agendized. I usually don't get a lot of notice before things are placed on council agendas either. So.
That's true. I just wondered if somebody happened to say this is a upcoming agenda item.
As soon as it starts getting talked about, I'll certainly let this group know.
Yeah, thank you. It's an interesting development. I did understand that was the way the discussion was going, and I can see the point. Just the word history and they have a lot in common. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense, architectural and planning very closely related. So, so that makes a little more sense. But thank you for keeping us updated on that.
All right, any other comments?
I just wanted to tell people again, Living History down at Point Sur. We're just, what are we charging? $30? We'll take you up in a van. You get to walk around. Maybe it won't be foggy, maybe. And yeah, August 3rd. And a shout out to either planning or building and permits. Our next door neighbor is putting on a little addition and everything sailed through the city of Monterey in less than a month. Wow. And they were thrilled. So.
Okay. I have a question about that. When is the tour where you get to go up on the bus?
August 3rd.
Same day as Jim Thomas's walk. Okay. So that's also, are we talking about the to the top or are we talking about
the top?
Oh, okay. It's the top. Okay.
Yep.
And what time is that? How do you
12 to 3.
12 to 3.
You have to be out by 4.
How do you make the reservation?
You don't make reservations. You show up and.
Oh, you show up.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
And there'll be a strange van waiting for you.
There will be a strange van. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the fact that they give people the opportunity to walk or not walk,
Oh, no, you can't walk.
Yeah, you can't walk.
Vehicles on the road.
And I'm thinking there are ICE agents.
Oh, you can't walk. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Right. The last one is planning update.
Yeah, so as included in your agenda packet, there's no tentative item scheduled for the August 14th meeting. We typically don't schedule meetings just for chair and vice chair rotation, so it's unlikely that we'll have a meeting that'll likely be canceled, and then that would then fall to the next regularly scheduled meeting where we have an item on the agenda. But currently nothing scheduled for August 14th, but there's a little bit of time between now and then. So if that changes, we'll certainly let this group know. And then also noted on there is the upcoming historical and cultural events with the Carmel Bach Festival, July 12th through the 26th. The rodeo in Salinas, July 17th to the 20th. And then of course the wharf walks as previously mentioned on August 3rd. And that's all we have.
Excellent.
Item from Larkin Scott. Would that only fall in a regular scheduled meeting, or could that fall in at any time?
So that was continued to a date uncertain. So we would typically, once we have that agendized or ready to be agendized, it'd be agendized for a regularly scheduled meeting.
Well, I have a question. Our regularly scheduled meetings are monthly.
Correct.
We have agenda items, so it could be in August.
Could be, if in a perfect scenario, if we were able to get everything together in a field trip scheduled and the site was acceptable, could be a possible scenario.
But it might take longer.
Might take a little bit longer.
To me, I think because they're in progress, they'd want to get it done as soon as they could, because it could slow down. You know, some of the things that could delay, and delays are costly, so they probably want to know what they're doing pretty soon. But we'll see.
To this commission's point, that's why it's a good idea to get everything approved at once.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, are we done? I am adjourning the meeting. Just under 2 hours.
It was a very interesting meeting.